Welcome to the LETSEE universe, back again with me Liam the Babayaga, who this time will present the latest action film titled John Wick 4, which will be released in 2023. The John Wick film is back and still starring Keanu Reeves, who is back as the assassin. This became the John Wick saga, having last released Parabellum in 2019. However, as usual, before we start what happened in the film this time, I warn you that this video contains spoilers, but if you don't care about spoilers, then just watch our discussion this time. John Wick Chapter 4.
Here we go.
The story will still focus on a man who is focused on being committed and determined, namely John Wick. Currently he is in a secret place belonging to the Bowery King, the king of beggars.
The motherfucking king!
Yeah.
Thanks to the support of the Bowery King, John Wick managed to reach the location of the Elder, aka one of the 12 high table officials, who lived in the Moroccan desert, where John's goal here was to ask the Elder to revoke his excommunicado status, but because the negotiations did not went smoothly and the Elder was still cocky, feeling that he was in control, John Wick, who didn't say much, shot him right then and there. And let me introduce you to a high table official named Harbinger, who has just arrived at the Continental branch of New York. Here we will again see the receptionist idol of all of us who is always pro and in favor of John Wick, who else if not, Karen. Harbinger's arrival here was to give Winston 1 hour to leave the Continental Hotel, because according to the high table judge, this had committed too many violations, so it was necessary to revitalize, aka bleaching, by demolishing the building that had become Winston's home, and Karen
Has been condemned.
His name is Marquis Vincent de Gramont, a charismatic man appointed as the new Elder, who replaces the oldest ideal position who was killed in Morocco earlier, where John Wick, Winston and Karen, should be wary of this one man, because the Marquis has unlimited access to high table resources that allow him to be judge, jury, executor, and free to do anything to hunt down and eliminate John Wick.
That's where we differ.
Not only in power, the Marquis is a sadistic and cruel figure, which is proven by him killing Karen right in front of Winston, so this moment becomes an emotional moment for all of us. This is the last time we see him perform, and there may not be another for the foreseeable future. We all know John Wick has a tattoo that reads Fortis Fortuna Auduvat, which means luck only favors the brave, so that's a plausible reason why John Wick is so hard to kill. Given the fact that John Wick is not a random person who is easy to kill, despite summoning a blind man of Asian origin named Kane, who is a retired bounty hunter, to kill John Wick in exchange for freeing him and his little princess from the high table.
Excellent!
Moving on to Sunny's overtime, more precisely the Hotel the Continental branch of Osaka, Japan, where we will be introduced to a new character, who is an assassin named the Tracker, aka the Tracker who from the beginning of John Wick 1, turns out to be secretly monitoring and following John Wick, to wait for the right time, when John is at a high price to kill.
Emotional support animal.
She's your support.
Secret, the table will come.
His name is Shimaju, the hotel manager of the Continental, who is almost the same as Winston. He is also good friends with John Wick, even currently protecting John Wick, by giving him a safe hiding place, but apparently, not safe enough for the high table to suspect there's John Wick in this place.
Winston, and only give us death.
He was named Chitty, a coordinator of the Marquis elite team, who was assigned to inspect hotels in continental Japan, where Shimaju immediately ordered his troops to prepare, feeling that the Marquis elite troops would definitely insist to take over this place.
Ask you to surrender your firearms.
Fully New York made.
And yeah, there was bloodshed between the Japanese troops and the elite Marquis troops wearing bulletproof suits, where the Shimaju managed to defeat most of these elite troops so that Chitty summoned reinforcements, namely the high table cleaning team who were fully armed, and wearing suits full set, which is not easy to kill.
Sorry.
Her name is Akira, the biological daughter of Shimaju, who is actually annoyed with John Wick, who is only a burden and brings trouble to her father, but because she had already done it, John Wick was invited to fight against the high table troops who had arrived on this floor. Shimaju himself managed to escape to the other side by deploying the remnants of his loyal troops, who managed to beat the high table troops quite nicely. When the chibi found it difficult to chase him, he called Kenny, who was eating pop noodles, to move and do it immediately his job.
Do your job.
At this point, you may be wondering, how can a blind Kane know his enemy's position? Yes, besides having great Wing Chun martial arts skills, has strong instincts and sharp hearing like the devil. Kane also uses reasonable methods, by utilizing technology or tools in the form of motion sensors, which he attaches at several points, so that helps him to know where the current position of his enemy is. After Shima advanced and finally safe, now John Wick must be alone against all the returning enemies. We will see John Wick's close-range fighting style, which is called Kung Fu, aka this modern martial arts combined with weapons and Kung Fu, and managed to defeat them all quite easily. After defeating them, now is the time for John Wick to face Kane, who turns out they both knew each other before, but for the sake of his beloved son, Kane has no other choice but to carry out his duties properly.
John?
Kane, I'm sorry.
And yeah, the tracker managed to save John Wick from Kane's death threats, not only once, but twice, when John Wick was about to run away, where the tracker bluntly stated the reason why he saved John Wick was because the tracker is waiting for the right time when John Wick is at a high price, more than $20 million, which is currently just tagged on him. At the same time, Kane, who lost John Wick, had to face Shimaju, who was also an old friend, who now had to duel because of the high table, where even the weakened Shimaju had to die at the hands of Kane, who was actually Kane himself. Hard to do this to his own old friend.
You owe John Wick nothing.
Come on.
Live.
Turning to Marky, who just heard the news, if his elite troops failed to kill John Wick, where the tracker is seen there to make a deal with the Marquis, namely asking for a fee of $25 million, $5 million more than the price of the contest, which is tagged to John Wick at this time. Marky, who has a violent, cruel and sadistic character, actually stabs the tracker's hand to show that he is not an ordinary person who can be negotiated, especially by an ordinary assassin like the tracker.
What the fuck is...
On the other hand, we will see Winston and Bowery together. Their careers were both destroyed due to the actions of John Wick, who was addicted to revenge, only because his dog died and his car was stolen, which actually can be understood and tolerated by both of them. But when John Wick had gone too far by challenging the High Table, which is the highest organization in the highest caste in the criminal world, they both felt the need to stop John Wick's brutal actions, which by finding the right solution, the solution is to challenge the Marquis to do single combat, or single combat under the auspices and rules of the old tradition of the High Table, in which to invite a duel like that, John must get legitimacy, or some kind of support or approval, from family members who are still under the auspices of the High Table, because John Wick feels he has no family members anymore. Winston also reminds John Wick of his adopted brother, who is a mafia boss who is currently in the Berlin church.
Who is this?
Learned nothing. Kill him or do it this.
Long story short, John Wick immediately drove to his adopted sister's headquarters, where John was immediately greeted with shotgun shots from a fake priest who was there. Fortunately, the suit he was wearing was a bulletproof suit, so John was immediately taken to face him directly. His younger brother left the mafia bosses in Berlin at the same time. And this is Katya, John's adoptive sister, who, while still joining the Russian criminal organization, where John immediately revealed his intention of coming here, was to ask for support so he could submit a challenge to the Marquis, but Katya put forward one condition, namely John must avenge the death of their adoptive father, who was killed by a member of the High Table named Killa.
Shot! Piotr is dead! I had to kneel in front of...
And here comes Killa, who turns out to be the most complete ex-fighter in the world. Unexpectedly, there's Kenny showing up there, who should have killed John Wick right away when he had the chance, but he didn't. The tracker also helped keep John Wick from dying first, so this was a tense moment, as well as detrimental for John. When Kane wanted to kill John, the tracker wanted to kill John, Killa wanted to kill John, and John himself came only to kill Killa.
9. Head.
I'm going to kill you.
As I explained, the tattoo that reads Fortis Fortuna Auduvat on John's back really made him lucky, because when John should have died earlier, he actually got help from Kane and the tracker, so John can stay focused on hunting. In the middle of a crowd of people who were dancing, John Wick remained focused on finding Killa, who was hiding among them all. One of them had met and had a bit of a fight. I don't know what John Wick's marrow and spine are made of. I noticed from John Wick chapter 1 to 4th, it's the umpteenth time John Wick has fallen from an extreme height, but he can still get up, even continue the fight as if nothing happened. Killa finally died at the hands of John Wick, with gold teeth as proof. John Wick also received legitimacy from Katya in the form of a stamp on his arm, as a form, or a symbol that Katya had agreed to John to do single combat with Marquis de Gramont. Moving to the residence of the Marquis, Winston, who served as John Wick's companion, also challenged the Marquis to a duel, based on the old tradition of the High Table, that whoever submits a single combat over the High Table, the person concerned is obliged and cannot refuse the challenge. If Winston and John Wick lose the duel later, then the Marquis can kill them both at any time, as well as raise the rank and name of the Marquis himself among the High Table, while if the Marquis loses, John Wick will be removed from the excommunicado status, and restore the post Winston as the manager, as well as bearing all the costs of rebuilding the New York branch of the Continental Hotel. Located in Paris, France, the Harbinger, the High Table official, will be the jury for both parties, where this meeting is to determine what type of duel will be carried out, which after both open cards at random, finally the duel is officially determined, namely duels that resemble cowboy duels. John Wick and the Marquis were going to have a shootout to the death with the rules that would be explained later, which, since the Marquis was incompetent in this matter, he handed this task over to an even more incompetent person, namely Kane, who was clearly unable to see. However, because Kane has a lot of instinct and experience, his ability is clear, there can be no doubt. The duel will be carried out right the next morning together with the sunrise. If someone arrives late, then that person is declared defeated and is entitled to a door prize, namely execution.
If you win, the table will honor its word.
Dueling pistols.
You are a killer.
Not much different from Santino Antonio, the Marquis de Gramont was as afraid as the two of them of John Wick's success in winning the duel later, so with his cunning brain and money, even though he raised John Wick's price to $26 million, who wouldn't be tempted by that huge amount? With Bowery and Winston on his side, John Wick was also equipped with the best pistol, namely a 9mm Pit Viper, with a static compensator optical fiber, which is second to none, so this ultimate gun is perfect for John Wick to brutalize bounty hunters who get in his way.
Years ago.
And yeah, just showing his feet in the open, John Wick was immediately faced with the peak of adrenaline, when dozens or even dozens of hitmen attacked him, which as we know, how many there are, how good they are, still, the bravest will win. With a car without doors, John Wick was driving recklessly, when he went against the flow at the roundabout, where the tracker again saved John Wick on the basis of waiting for the right price, so John Wick could save time with the enemies on this street. Because more and more hunters appeared, John Wick was forced to enter an empty building with little lighting, which was a very profitable place for him, because as we know, John Wick has a nickname, Babayaga, aka Ghost, because he can appear and disappear quickly into the darkness. Realizing that the tracker was at the location and had many opportunities to kill John Wick, the Marquis tried to make a deal with him, but because the tracker asked for a price far above the competitive price, that is, $35 million, the Marquis immediately turned off the phone. After thinking about it, the Marquis finally contacted the tracker again to agree to the price, but the tracker again raised the price by $40 million, so instead of bidding, the Marquis immediately agreed to the price, so John Wick became the first person with the highest competition price in the history of the high table. Just when John Wick was a little closer to killing the tracker, Chitty appeared, who came to kill him, but suddenly the tracker dog came to help, which is where Booty's dead moment occurred, when John Wick chose to save the dog by shooting Chitty and leave the tracker on. Right in front of the 222 steps leading to the church which became the location of the duel, John Wick had to arrive at the top just before sunrise, where there were already a lot of hunters waiting for him, so without saying much John Wick went straight ahead to face them all. Having succeeded defeating the guys and just a little more to the top, a Chitty appeared who was already there, so John Wick had to start again from the beginning, after Chitty managed to throw him from above. It was in these desperate moments that Kane appeared, who had no personal problems with John from the start, so he would voluntarily help John up so that the duel could still be carried out.
John? What time is sunrise?
When Chitty felt happy and arrogant towards the two of them, Kane managed to paralyze him using an object that was identical to John Wick, namely a pencil. When Chitty still didn't give up and wanted to kill, the tracker appeared with his dog who intended to repay Booty for John Wick's help in that building.
Nuts.
Right at sunrise, John Wick made it to the location of the duel, where he and Kane, who was the replacement for the Marquis, were also given an old gun, which could only hold one bullet. At a distance of approximately 15 meters, they would shoot simultaneously, to see who will die first and lose this duel. And yes, in the first round both of their shots just grazed each other's bodies a little, then the Harbinger ordered both of them to move 20 steps forward, and the second round would begin.
Fire!
Yes, the Marquis seems to have started to feel worried, when Kane was shot in the side of the abdomen, but it didn't knock him down. Then the Harbinger again ordered the two of them to move 10 steps forward, so from this close range, the chances for both of them to be shot in the vital part were very, very high, even bigger, so that the third round is the final round, which will determine who the winner is, and how extraordinary is Kane's luck. Even though he can't see, he manages to shoot John Wick in the stomach, and manages to knock him down, which in the seconds now that is, Marquis immediately took over his role to end this duel, but what he forgot was, John Wick had not fired his gun at all. So in the end the Marquis still died at the hands of John Wick.
Fire!
Fools.
Consequences.
And according to the rules of the high table, John Wick was officially revoked from excommunicado status, which means, he is now a free person, while for Winston, he has the right to regain his position as hotel manager, also the same as Kane, who was allowed to continue his retirement together with his beloved princess. For a long time the tracker patiently waited, and continued to monitor. It seemed that it was not the time to get big profits from killing John Wick. The wound from Kane's shot seemed to hit a vital part, which made John Wick die, so this might be the end of the adventure of the legend of the assassin, namely the Babayaga.
Now is concluded.
My brother, take me home.
До свидания, мой сын.